All right, so we're about a quarter mark through the NBA season. 22 games have been played, and I chose 22 just to even out the 4-part breakdown throughout the season of my MVP rankings, and that's what we are going to talk about today. If the season ended today, who would be my MVP? How would my top 5 or top 6? Because I have a controversial 6th pick that I'm going to discuss. But if the season ended today, who would be my MVP for the NBA season? And I'm going to go through each one really quickly for this video, and then we're just going to update it at the 40 game mark, the 60 game mark, and then of course the last chunk of the 82 game mark. So let's get right to it. Number 1, I have Jayson Tatum, and he has a few arguments to be the league's front runner for MVP right now. He checks a lot of boxes on my personal formula for MVP. He has the best player on the best team argument. He also has the stats big time to back it up. And also he has the two-way play, and he has the wins, as the Celtics are on pace to win 67 games, and he is the engine behind what is going to be, if the Celtics keep going at this pace, the best offensive rating in NBA history by a mile. Jayson Tatum is averaging 31.6 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and over 4.5 assists with 48.8%, 36.6%, and 87.3% shooting splits with a 63.5 true shooting percentage, which is really elite. That's the mark of an elite player, an elite offensive player right there. And it's not just offense. Jayson Tatum, for a long time now, has been a really good defender, one of the best two-way defenders in the NBA, and he has taken the challenge a lot of nights of guarding the best player. The Celtics have a lot of options, of course, with their switchiness with Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, etc., etc. And Jayson Tatum on nights decides to take the challenge and guard the best player, and that permeates throughout the team. And also, if the Celtics were to lose Jayson Tatum, God forbid, to an injury or something like that, he has that argument as well, where the Celtics would not be as good. Would the Celtics still be, a 50-win team without Jayson Tatum? Probably, but I think people like the leap from bad to good versus the leap from great to historically great, which is, to me, an even harder leap. I think people should recognize that making the jump to historically great is really, really hard, and Jayson Tatum is the reason for that. So he is my MVP. Number 2, I have Giannis, and I know Giannis isn't putting up the efficiency by his standards, but I mean, his efficiency still this season would be good for a lot of NBA players. Giannis is still averaging 31.3 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, and over 5.5 assists on a 57.9 true shooting percentage, and the shooting splits also are right up on the screen. But Giannis is still putting up special two-way play. The Milwaukee Bucks are 15-5. He hasn't had Drew Holiday for some games this season. Chris Middleton has yet to play a game. He's actually making his debut tonight against the Lakers. And I made a video earlier. Brook Lopez is my front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, but that does not take any credit away from Giannis, who is a special defender in his own right and one of the best defenders, especially one of the best help defenders in NBA history. And so I have Giannis number 2. Number 3, and I am so glad to put him here, and he has an argument for number 2. If you have him number 2 here, I won't hold you. I just put Giannis there because I like the two-way play, but Devin Booker needs some damn respect in the NBA already. The Suns have been good for going on 3 seasons now. They are the best team in the Western Conference, and Devin Booker is the reason why. No Chris Paul, except for 10 games this year. Cam Johnson has been out. Jay Crowder is sitting on the couch checking Twitter and watching Instagram highlights, and Devin Booker still has the Suns on top of the Western Conference, navigating a bunch of turmoil stemming from the offseason with the DeAndre Ayton saga, the Robert Sarver situation, and now Robert Sarver is looking to sell the team. There's just so much going on in flux right now, and Devin Booker still has this team atop the Western Conference. The Suns have a top 5 offense still, they have a top 6 defense, and they are still playing like a contender that they have been for the last 2 seasons. And, he is definitely exceeding a lot of people's expectations given the turmoil and maybe some possible turnover with, Crowder and upcoming contract situation with Cam Johnson. But Devin Booker is still averaging 29 points per game, 5 rebounds a game, and he's averaging almost 6 assists per game, and that's the highest he has averaged in terms of assists per game since Chris Paul has joined the team. Devin Booker has always been an underrated playmaker. He has improved in playmaking ever since he's gotten into the NBA, and he's kind of had to take a step back, obviously, to share some of the ball handling duties with Chris Paul, but Devin Booker has stepped up and taken the challenge. Also has a 60 true shooting percentage with 48.9, 37.8, and 87.8 shooting splits. Devin Booker has been spectacular this year, and also he's no slouch on defense, obviously. Devin Booker needs the damn respect he deserves. He's gone from good stats, bad team guy earlier in his career, which was always a dumb criticism to me, to when Chris Paul joined the team and was like, well, was Chris Paul the MVP? Was Chris Paul the true MVP of the Suns? He's turned that franchise around. No. Devin Booker has been the best player on the Suns his entire career in every iteration of the Suns team that he has been on, and he has this team atop the Western Conference in a very weird Western Conference, but atop the Western Conference regardless. So I have Devin Booker number 3. Number 4, I have Stephen Curry, and Stephen Curry, I know it's maybe a little bit controversial because the Warriors are 500 right now, but the Warriors started off the season 3-7, and they have been 7-4 since then. And Stephen Curry the entire season has been spectacular, even by his standards. And he shot 38% from 3 last year. And I mentioned in a previous video regarding that was low for him, like bad for him. 38% is good for a lot of NBA players. It's really bad for Stephen Curry. And now he's progressed back to the mean, and he is shooting 43.6% on over 12 threes per game. He's shooting 51.8% from the field overall, 62.5% on 2-pointers. And of course, it's not a Stephen Curry year if he's not shooting 90% from the line, which he is doing right now. And it is a scorching 68.2 true shooting percentage on 31 points per game, nearly 7 rebounds a game, and 7 assists per game. He is already surpassed his numbers from his unanimous MVP season. He is the everything for the Warriors. He is the sun, the planet, the moon, the stars. Everything orbits around Stephen Curry. And a lot of the Warriors' good lineups are because of Stephen Curry. The starting lineup's still good. The Warriors have finally, started tweaking the rotation. Mainly James Wiseman is not playing anymore, and I might have to take the L on my James Wiseman fandom because it's just not looking good, and it doesn't look like he's coming back to the Warriors anytime soon. But Steve Kerr has kind of figured out some rotations. The Warriors aren't fouling as much as they were early in the season, and as the Warriors keep winning games, Stephen Curry is probably going to crash the top 3, and it's going to be a very interesting MVP race down the stretch, unless, of course, Boston slows down a bit. Jayson Tatum has the top spot, of course, but if the Warriors keep winning, and who knows, by game 40, game 60, Stephen Curry could be at the top, because he definitely has the numbers argument to make a case for the number 1 spot. So I have Steph 4. Number 5, I have NIKOLA Jokic, and Jokic isn't having the scoring output that he has had during his back-to-back MVP campaign, but Jokic is still averaging nearly 23 points per game, shooting almost 63% from the field, which is absolutely wild, and he has a 70 true shooting percentage. The dude is shooting 68.5% on 2s. The dude is a efficient scoring monster, but he has clearly taken a step back this year because Jamal Murray's back, Michael Porter Jr.'s back. They have new additions like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown, who have been good for them. Aaron Gordon has slotted in very nicely as the 4th, 5th option as well. And Jokic just doesn't have to carry 2nd and 3rd stringers anymore, and he is clearly taking a step back and saving his energy. But even then, Jokic is still averaging nearly 9 assists per game, nearly 10 rebounds a game, so his rebounding's down, but again, a lot of his supporting cast is back, and Jokic is the engineer behind the 2nd best offense in the NBA. If the Celtics weren't just scorching the earth right now, the Nuggets would have the best offense in the NBA, and the Nuggets are very quietly 14-7 and 2nd place in the Western Conference. So not only does Jokic have the efficiency, the numbers, being the best player on the best team, he also has the winning to back it up. So I have Jokic number 5. And you're probably wondering, where is Luka Doncic? Where is Luka Doncic? Yes, Luka is carrying a heavy load for the Mavericks, especially after the Mavericks bungled the entire Jalen Brunson thing. Doncic needs help with another ball handler. It has become very apparent, but I have Luka 6, and, you know, some of it isn't his fault. The team around him is not playing well enough. And, you know, he is scoring and assisting. He makes up a lot of Dallas's offensive output, but Dallas is 10-11. They have had some bad losses, and they are currently out of the playoffs and play-in entirely. And to be honest, even before yesterday, because I did a little, you know, I put my list together yesterday, I still had Luka 6th. I think any MVP list that has Luka in the top 3 or top 2, or half of them I've seen Luka at 1, I just don't agree with at all. At some point, winning has to matter. Yes, I understand he has to carry a big load, but we just saw NIKOLA JOKIC last year, as I mentioned earlier, carrying a gigantic load, carrying third, second stringers, and Jokic still had the Nuggets at 48 wins, and I don't want to hear the excuses as to why the Mavericks are 10-11. I know that sounds reductive, but at some point, winning has to matter. Luka definitely has the numbers, and they're ridiculous. He's averaging almost 34 points per game, nearly 9 rebounds and 9 assists a game on 50% shooting from the field, and has a 60 true shooting percentage, which is elite. But at the end of the day, the Mavericks have had some very winnable games against some bad teams, and they lost those games. And, you know, it's a jumbled Western Conference, so it's not like a few wins definitely would have helped out Luka's MVP case. But right now, if the season ended today, the Mavericks would be out of the playoffs and playing entirely. And to me, that's just automatically disqualifies Luka from being anywhere near the top 3. The reason I have him in the top 6 is because he is carrying such a big load and he has so much responsibility on his hands. But at some point, you have to start beating the bad teams. And also, if you're doing a tiebreaker, because the Mavericks were 500 yesterday before losing to the Pistons in overtime. If you did a tiebreaker because the Warriors were 500 and the Mavericks were 500, and no, the head-to-head matchup between the Warriors and the Mavericks earlier this week doesn't sway my MVP rankings really at all. But if we're doing a tiebreaker between two teams that are 500 with MVP candidates, I'm going with the better player, and Stephen Curry is the better player. Luka is an absolute superstar, but Stephen Curry has the efficiency. The Warriors have been playing better recently. Same with Jokic. Jokic has better efficiency, though he's not having nearly the scoring output that Luka has. And the Nuggets are also winning a lot of games, and it's because of Jokic. Now, the Mavericks, of course, could go on a streak and, you know, find their way into the top 7 of the Western Conference, and the conversation might be different. But as it stands right now, I'm not giving the MVP or giving a top 3 MVP spot to somebody who is out of the playoffs and playing entirely, when some of the best players on the best teams in the conference, MVP candidates, are, you know, engineering wins and putting up better numbers efficiently and also winning. They just have more arguments and more feathers in their cap than Luka does. So I have Luka Doncic 6th. If you disagree with that, if you have Luka higher, more power to you. And if you disagree and, you know, have a rebuttal or something like that, you know, leave a comment in the comment section below. But if you're upset that I have Luka 6th, and, you know, a lot of MVP lists and all that stuff have Luka in the top 5 or top 4, I'm sorry, I just disagree with that. And if you don't like it, then I don't know what to tell you. So that's my MVP list. We're going to do a MVP check-in at about 40 games and do an update on the MVPs. But until then, I'll see you next time.